Shalom. Good morning. I wanted to talk to you a minute about, September is National Preparedness Month. It's a month set aside every year by the U.S. government to make sure that people, or to educate people, and hopefully that they will be prepared for emergencies. You never know when an emergency is going to strike. There's no warning. It's a surprise, right? Hurricanes, blizzards, weather incidents, earthquakes. I mean, you don't know when an emergency is going to happen. Government shutdowns, viruses. You just don't know when there's going to be an emergency. And I think it's really interesting that with September being the National Preparedness Month, that Facebook has come out with something about being prepared as well. Now, Facebook has been very political. The last several years, they've become more and more political. My husband and I have exited Facebook over a year ago, and oh my gosh, probably one of the better decisions we've made in our lives. But Facebook has been encouraging dissension between people. They've been encouraging people to turn on each other, to report each other, along with the media. But they've been since starting to think of, this was starting back when we left. So that was over a year ago that they started wanting you to report people who were not doing what they were supposed to do regarding the trying not to trigger any alarms, but regarding, society and societal expectations that have been the norm for the last couple of years, whether it's this or just the virus. But started apparently this year, specifically around June or July, they started wanting people to report extremist behavior, and they've been really pushing that agenda. So in September, my sister, I was talking to her the other day, and she was telling me about in September, Facebook decided that they were going to put on canning groups that they wanted people to report extremist behavior in canning groups. Are people being too prepared? And I'm not kidding, okay? So I'm not on Facebook, so I had to go elsewhere to get a screenshot of this. But canning, okay, a canning group, canning guarding food preservation. And what it says is, are you concerned that someone you know is becoming too prepared? We care about preventing extremism on Facebook. Others in your situation have received confidential support. Hear stories and get advice from people who escaped violent extremist groups. When did canning become a violent extremist group? I mean, seriously? The crazier Facebook gets, the more and more I am certain that we made the right decision to leave Facebook. And if YouTube starts becoming like this, we'll find another platform for that too. At any rate. So yeah, September is National Preparedness Month, and it is always a good idea to be prepared for an emergency. You should have water and you should have food to last at least, because we've been snowed in for living back in the country over a month, because we got dumped on. So we were snowed in for over a month. And that was just normal. So if you don't have food to last your family for a month, you're screwed. If you don't have water to last your family for a month, you're screwed. Okay? Because if something like that happens, you can't get out to the store. Unless, I mean, there were people who were trying it with 4-wheel drives and they were just not making it, because not only did we live in the mountains, but we lived on a mountain that was had really dangerous curves, that had steep inclines. So yeah, if you live in a place like that, you have to be prepared. So I was asked the question a couple months ago by the lady who runs the Azure Standard drop that I go to, if we were preppers. And I have absolutely nothing against preppers. I mean, go for it. I don't think that's extreme. Because as we've seen the last couple of years, particularly, you need to be prepared, because you never know when you're going to have to stay at home for 2 weeks, or, or weather is going to impede. So at any rate, so I was asked if we were preppers, and I don't consider myself a prepper any more than my grandparents were preppers. Any more than my parents were preppers. They prepared for emergencies, because if you didn't, back then there was no store on every corner. People didn't live in the huge cities. They lived in the country. If you didn't have food on hand to feed your family, you would starve. Literally. If you didn't have water, your family would die. It's about survival. It's not just about being prepared for whatever catastrophe may happen, but it's about that, but it's also about survival. And I just think it's really disgusting what Facebook is doing. I really do. And they were so bad when we left that I was just like, it was such a toxic environment. We were just like, we could not be a part of that anymore. And so we left, and honestly, it has been the best decision we made. And the funny thing is, you may have hundreds of friends. I did on Facebook, people I went to school with, people I used to work with at different places. But how many of them stay in contact with me now? You'll find out how many people really care about you, and how many are just wanting to stick their nose in your window and peer in to see what you're about. That's just honest. I'm just being honest. So I mean, one of the things I'm wondering about is, why does Facebook not want you to be prepared? Do you wonder that? Why do they want to know who all is stocking up food? Because stocking up food is extremist behavior, and I'm being very sarcastic when I say that. And why are they making prepping political? I am not a conspiracy theorist, but I am intelligent enough and reasonable enough and logical enough to be able to look at the signs and see that there really are some conspiracies out there. Not all conspiracy theories are wrong. There's actually a saying I heard: behind every conspiracy theory, there's always a little bit of truth. So we need to just be cautious about trusting entities like Facebook, who have our greater good at heart, but really they don't. They're just waiting for an opportunity to swoop in and destroy. No. So, are we preppers? No. And yes. We do want to be prepared for any kind of emergency, because you don't know the world is getting worse and worse, honestly. And Yeshua told us in Matthew chapter 24, and I'm just going to read a couple verses here, but he said, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. But see that you're not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places. And just speaking of famines, we haven't experienced a famine in the United States for a really long time, since the I guess the 30s and 40s. But we have had droughts, and there's been a drought that's hit the almost the whole United States that has really significantly impacted food production, what has been able to be grown, because without water the plants don't grow. And so I mean, that has Azure Standard has been letting us know about how that's affecting what they supply, what they sell. Like the grains are going to be smaller. They're going to be more expensive because, they weren't able to grow as plump and as good as previous years. So things like that do affect the price point. And then you look at the price of gas going up, and so I just diverged. Anyway, so just covering the famine part, we know that famines are possible. We know all it takes is a good drought for a couple of years, and the whole nation's screwed. So why would you not want to be prepared to have at least a year's supply of food? I mean, that's just common sense. That's just common sense, living, specifically living in the country, where you need to make sure that you can provide for your food. Because what if you can't work tomorrow? You can't earn a living. How are you going to feed your family? We have experienced that this last couple of years, and a lot of people have been in desperate straits. And just because you may think that you are safe and secure with your money situation doesn't mean that you necessarily are, because things happen and politics get played and we get stuck in the middle. But going back to Matthew chapter 24, verse 8, all these are just the beginning of sorrows. They shall deliver you up to be afflicted and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then this verse right here, verse 10, is so today. And then shall many be offended and shall betray one another. Isn't that what Facebook is asking people to do? And shall hate one another. And isn't that true? And it goes on to say in verse 12, because iniquity shall abound. Iniquity is sin, and sin is defined by John in, I believe it's 1 John. Sin is transgression of the law. A lot of people understand sin as being missing the mark, but you're missing the mark of what? What mark are you missing? What is your target? What are you aiming for? What you're aiming for is the law, the 10 Commandments, and all the other laws in the Old Testament. I know people just are ignorant. A lot of people are ignorant about what it is. All the 613, there's actually more than that, but all the 613 commandments, and then some, are to tell us how we are to implement the 10 Commandments. How do you love God? How do you love your neighbor? How do you honor your parents? That's what the other commandments are for. It's not because God wants to be, it's not because he wants to be an overbearing a parent, so to speak. It's because he put guidelines there to help us to understand what we need to do and how we need to do it in order to obey the commandments. And so the love of many, because iniquity shall abound, sin abounds, the love of many shall wax cold. There's very little love in this world today. It's at least that's what I was seeing from Facebook, and that's why I left, because it was so toxic, so full of hate, so full of backbiting, so full of anger and malice and people not taking responsibility for their own behavior and wanting to blame everybody else for it. Just slothfulness and I mean, just about every evil that you can think of, I've seen on Facebook. So I'm very happy that we left Facebook. And to get back to the national preparedness, would I think less of somebody for reporting somebody for being prepared for emergencies? Absolutely, because that's ridiculous. Just looking at what's going on in the world today, and just going back less than 100 years ago, people had to supply their own food because the government is not going to take care of you. I know a lot of people believe that, but they're not going to take care of you. That's not the government's job to take care of you. It's your job to take care of yourself. And so yeah, this is turning into a little bit of a rant because I think it's ridiculous that people are treating each other the way they are. And the way that they're treating each other absolutely breaks the commandments of God. Absolutely breaks the commandments of God, because reporting someone because they're canning, because they're gardening, because they're preparing and preserving the food that they grow for their family, that's extremist behavior. You're insane, or you have an agenda. And I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist. But it bears out, and that's the problem. Facebook is not, they've already shown and come forth in the interviews that they're doing, for the Senate interviews, right? Because they're really going to do something about it. But anyway, they've admitted that they sell information. The information that Facebook collects is, how can I put this delicately? Is not secure. They do sell information. That's why they have all those ads that are targeted to you. They sell your information. All of this encouragement by the media and by social media to turn on your neighbor, to turn on your family, to turn on your friends, to turn them into the things that, hold on. Anyway, I think the people who are reporting people are the ones who really need to get the help. So, are we preppers? Yes, we are. And no, it's not extreme. The motto this year for National Preparedness Month, the motto this year is, or the theme this year is, prepare to protect. Preparing for disasters is protecting everyone you love. So preparing for disasters is not extremist behavior. Now, the first time I actually heard about preppers was, I was actually talking to this guy who lives in DC, and he was like talking about all the things that was telling me about all the things that was going on. And he did the, martial arts training for some of the military. So he was telling me about some of the things that was going on, and it's a lot scarier than what the media will cover. And so he was telling me that he is absolutely a prepper, and he was like telling me about all the things he had prepared, and I was like, my mind was blown. I'd never heard the phrase before. But my mind was also blown because here's this guy who works in the government, who works with the government, and who is seeing what's going on behind the scenes and is saying, I'm a prepper because of this. So, that kind of got me thinking. And that was like, wow, that was over 10 years ago. And so now it's even worse now than it was 10 years ago. It is. And the state of the country is like so far down the tubes. It's scary. I don't think my grandparents would have recognized the country as it has turned out today. So yeah, we are preppers. We do believe that everyone should be prepared for an emergency, and you should not expect for the government to take care of you, because when the chips are down, it's every man for himself. And I hate to say that, but it's true. If when Rita hit, my ex-husband was telling me, because he was from Louisiana, he was telling me about all the disasters and how well the government really took care of people. And I'm being very sarcastic there. They didn't. And we saw that on the news. I mean, they reported that, surprisingly. They did report how poorly people were taken care of with Rita, with the, which one was it that took out the, when they hit New Orleans so hard that caused massive flooding there. FEMA did not do a good job of taking care of the people down there. And so if you're waiting for the government to come in and rescue you, you may be waiting a really long time. And the help that they provide, a lot of the trailers were full of formaldehyde that made people sick. And so, yeah, if you're waiting for the government to take care of you, you might need to rethink that strategy. Now, I don't want to be dependent on, I was raised to be independent, to not depend on a man to provide for me, to not wait for the government to, it was shameful. I actually had to use food stamps for 2 years because my income as a single parent was so low. It was taking almost all of the money I had to just pay the bills, especially in the wintertime when the electric bill would shoot up to $300 just to keep I lived in a log cabin just to keep the house warm. And there was no fireplace, so I couldn't use fire. But I had to use food stamps for those 2 years, and I was ashamed because I did not want to have to depend on the government to provide for my needs. I remember when I was little, we had to get WIC and food stamps for a little while. And, my parents were very ashamed about having to depend on the government for assistance. It was not a sense of pride. But today there are people that take pride. Oh yeah, I got food stamps. I got like $300 of food stamps. I'm sorry that you need those food stamps, but people, take pride in it because, the Bible tells us if you are, the Bible has a lot to say about being lazy, slothful, and, we really should not do that. We should be working to take care of our family. And, I don't work a public job. I work in the home with my, and so I clean the home. I take care of the home. I do the gardening. Not all of it, but I do the majority of the gardening and the yard work and all of that because that's my job. My husband works to bring in the money to buy the things that we need. I'm getting so far off topic. So if you're waiting for the government to come in and save you, you may, when the chips are down, you may be sadly disappointed. We should be able to, and this should be our goal, and it's my goal, my goal is to have a year's supply of food for my family. And once I get a year's supply, I'm going to work on 2 years supply, because I don't know what tomorrow brings. And seeing the way society is breaking down now, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. And I'm just going to leave it at that. It doesn't look good. And if you have discerning eyes, you can look and see at that the country and the world as a whole is actually nosediving into the prophecies that Yeshua prophesied about in Matthew 24. And it's taking a nosedive. The airbags are not coming out. It's just taking a nosedive. Anyway, this has been a really heavy topic, and like I said, I left Facebook because I do not like that drama and chaos and just evil. I mean, the things that they're banning versus the things that they allow is just insane, because pornography is okay. There are other children being beaten, ISIS beheading people, things like that are not taken down on Facebook. There are some bad things that take place on Facebook, and it's not taken down even after it's reported. Abuse of people, bullying online, it's just insanity. And so they supposedly took a stance against bullying. Well, that was nonsense. That was nonsense. Because I actually did report someone for bullying a mentally disabled person online. And yeah, they did nothing. So yeah, Facebook is it's a cesspool. And it was a really good idea to begin with, because you were able to, I actually only joined Facebook to keep up with my ex-husband's children, to stay in contact with them, because they lived in Alaska. They were in the military and lived in Alaska, and then Germany and Delaware. And so I joined Facebook to keep up with them. And then the others were in Louisiana, and just to stay in contact. And over the course of, I think I was on Facebook maybe 14 years. And over the course of that time, it really has become a cesspool. And just not a place that I want to be. So I have absolutely exited that sewer and will not be going back. So I just wanted to add one more thing about the whole preparedness thing. The story of Joseph in Egypt, and how he saved the whole nation of Israel, and how he saved the whole nation of Egypt. Yeah, if he had not been prepared, if they had not prepared for the 7 years prior, that was the 7 years of plenty. If they had not prepared during those 7 years, they would have all died of starvation during the 7 years of famine. So preparedness is not something to be afraid of. There's no such thing as extreme preparedness. I mean, people prepare based on what they think they need. Who am I or you or Facebook or anyone else to decide what is right for that person? It's not our business. So that's kind of my big beef with the Facebook. It's not our business, and it's not Facebook's business. So, yep. Shalom. This is me editing and realizing I forgot to close this video. Yeah, if you feel the need to prepare, do so. Don't wait for somebody else to take care of you, because it's not going to happen. I mean, when the chips are down, it's just not going to happen. So anyway, Yahuah bless you and keep you and give you shalom. Until next time, Yah bless.